my name's Peter. We are in our second small group training, and today we're going to talk about creating an environment of authenticity. And Andrew, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, because I can imagine that some of the people watching this session are thinking, I really want my group to go deeper. I'd love for us to, confess what's going on in our hearts and sins. And there's other people that, they think, I really like our group just discussing what's going on in the Bible and debating back and forth. And so, as you think of authenticity, what really sets the stage for that? And what does that look like in a group in a really healthy way?
So I think authenticity really starts with self-disclosure, where you're talking about the deeper levels, not just the surface level. Even in the prayer request time, people are like, hey, pray for my aunt or pray for my cat. Well, I don't like cats, so I'm not going to pray for your cat. But we want people to go deeper, and you probably want that too, because knowledge isn't enough. It really is when you take that knowledge and apply it to your own life. And if you want to have an authentic group, then it starts with you. You set the example for being authentic. Think of a depth finder on a boat. And so a depth finder really just kind of measures where you're at. And you as a leader, as deep as you're willing to go, is how deep your group is going to go. So you're going to need to admit some faults in your life, some failures in your life. You also want to celebrate some successes. But as deep as you go, that's how other people will go. Now, that doesn't mean that on their first meeting you share your deepest, darkest secrets that makes everyone uncomfortable and like, I don't know if I want to be here. But eventually down the road, there's going to be times where you need to do that. You not only need to set the example, but you also need to invite other people to be authentic. And so this can feel forced sometimes. One of my favorite strategies to help people go deeper is to break up into smaller groups of people. For some reason, people are more likely to share in a group of 2 or 3 than a group of 12. And maybe it's easier to tell just a few people so you can see how they're feeling about you, but I found that a lot of times we'll break up into guys and girls, or groups of 2 or groups of 3, and that helps. Also, asking other people follow-up questions is really helpful. So let's just say your friend Jim says, yeah, I think Christians need to do a better job at loving their neighbors. That's what Jesus tells us to do. Say, Jim, thanks for sharing that, man. What do you think that looks like in your life? And so Jim might get a little uncomfortable and say, well, but if you continue to do that and set the culture, then people will say, okay, yeah, I'm going to be asked a follow-up question, so I need to not just give a surface answer, but I need to actually think about it and say, what does this mean in my own life? And that'll help people go deeper.
So Andrew, you've given us some great observations and insights. Think of it on the group level, and you were kind of getting there. How do you do it? Like, how do you do it well?
Yeah, I think I've given you some practical things, but you really need some personal things as well. Because if you're going to be open and authentic and allow people to see who you really are, then your identity has to be set. And so the first way your identity is set is knowing who you are. So you know that you're a child of God. It's about believing who Jesus is, what he's done, and how he loves you. And so your identity is no longer on how you perform or what other people think of you, but now it's being a child of God. And when you're secure in that identity, then you can share openly because you're not worried about what people are thinking or what people are going to say. I've actually found the opposite to be true, that when you share deeply and when you share about your faults and failures, people actually respect you more. 2 of the most powerful words in the English language, Peter, are me too. Maybe you've had the experience where you've shared something, or you've heard someone else share something, and it's exactly what you're going through, and you say, wow, me too. I've had that same experience, and it just creates a level of depth and insight, and now you can grow closer and closer as a group, and it's actually encouraging.
C.S. Lewis, when he talks about friendship, that's his definition of people being able to share that. And so, as we kind of close this session, we've talked a lot about how we don't find our identity in leadership, but we find it in who Jesus says it is. If you're a group leader that's scared to go deeper, and you're sitting and you're talking to me, what would you want to say to that group leader?
I would say you need to take the leap. You just need to take the leap. It's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. and yet it's going to help people learn to follow Jesus, because we as the leaders, we're not perfect. Jesus is perfect. And so we continue to point to him even when we fail, even when we succeed. And he's the main person that we want to emulate. And we don't want people to be like us. We want people to be like Jesus.